power, meeting senior army figures, despite calls from opposition leaders demanding change. Our chief correspondent, Stuart Ramsey, has the latest from Cairo.
Fighter jets screamed above the heads of demonstrators spending yet another day on the streets. If this was a show of force coinciding with the start of yet another curfew designed to convince everyone it was time to go home, it failed.
No one is afraid of the curfew. We've been afraid for 30 years and no one is afraid now. We want freedom. We want to be free to elect a president, a real president, that can really put this and take this country forward.
Thousands more streamed into Cairo Tahrir Square to show their solidarity. They did so as a new column of tanks made their way towards the centre, their effect to convince even more people that they needed to join the demonstrations to protect their demands for democracy. Soldiers trying to control the crowds have been overwhelmed by the masses pushing their way through the army lines. For hours and hours, the demonstrators move in unchoreographed circles around the square. A soldier was carried aloft, leading the chorus of anti-President Mubarak slogans. The people want change, but it's taking a long time.
There is a sense that although these demonstrations show that they are able to control the central part of the city here in Cairo, nothing has actually moved on.
What is clear is that those demands for change remain undiminished.
We have been suffering from Mubarak's system for over more than 30 years. He destroyed everything in the country. He stole all the money. What are we going to do?
So this is a revolution?
Yeah, it's a revolution.
The protesters continued to ignore the curfew as night fell over Egypt. Against expectation, opposition leader Mohammed Al-Baradei joined the thousands still on the street. The demands of the people would have to be met, he said, promising a new era and a new Egypt. He was virtually mobbed by the crowds.
I bow to the people of Egypt in respect. I ask of you patience. Change is coming in the next few days. You have taken back your rights, and what we have begun cannot go back. We have one main demand: the end of the regime and the beginning of a new stage, a new Egypt.
So far, the army have just watched and the crowds have embraced them. But many believe that the government could still attempt to fight back. Everyone believes that that will result in even more deaths. Stuart Ramsey, Sky News, Cairo.
Well, Barack Obama has spoken to David Cameron today about the situation in Egypt. Downing Street has made some comment about that conversation, saying the Prime Minister and the President agreed the Egyptian government must respond peacefully to the ongoing protest. They condemned the violence of recent days. They were united in their view that Egypt now needed a comprehensive process of political reform with an orderly Egyptian-led transition leading to a government that responded to the grievances of the Egyptian people and to their aspirations for a democratic future. Well, the Egyptian army has historically had close ties to the leadership, but after the president deployed fighter jets to mark the start of the curfew today, it remains unclear how he'll use the country's considerable military might. Ashish Joshi reports.
President Hosni Mubarak sits centre stage, but it's the men in uniforms around him who are really calling the shots. Egypt's future is uncertain, but one thing is definite. Its army will seal the country's fate.
It is the guardian of the state. It has been the bulwark of support behind the regime since 1952. So it's a very, very strong and deep-rooted institution in Egyptian society.
The security forces are despised, but the army is respected. Twice going to war with neighbour Israel in 1967. But its inaction right now must not be interpreted as weakness.
It could clear the streets in minutes.
So far, it hasn't done that. And that's very, very interesting. It means that the senior army officers really are still not decided as to exactly which way they're going to turn.
Egypt's army is the 10th largest in the world, at almost 500,000 strong, and all 4 of Egypt's presidents come from the military. History tells us the country's next leader will too. General Mohammed Tantawi controls Egypt's armed forces. He would have backed the appointments of former intelligence chief Omar Suleiman as the new vice president and the former Air Force commander Ahmed Shafiq as the new prime minister. Hosni Mubarak was thought to be grooming his son Gamal as presidential heir, leading to speculation the army's influence had waned. A leaked US diplomatic cable reported the idea that the military remains a key political and economic force is conventional wisdom here. However, other observers tell us that the military has grown less influential, more fractured, and its leadership weaker in recent years. Reporting on the army in Egypt is banned, but we do know how much it gets from the Americans. In 2010, the US spent $1.3 billion strengthening Egyptian forces. Another $1.9 million was spent on training to bolster long-term US-Egyptian ties.
It can hold 80 million people together. It also represents continuity of U.S. policy in the Middle East. It can be a leader of the rest of the Arab world.
The army has not intervened directly so far. When it does and what it does will decide Egypt's and probably the Middle East's future. Ashish Joshi, Sky News.
In other news tonight,